Hello everybody, this is Mike from TCAT's Deep Vinyl Tracks. I wanted to get on and do a video about progressive rock, specifically about some bands that you may have missed through the years or may not have heard about. And I've got some examples of these bands. I'm pulling them out of my own collection, and this will be a series that will run over the course of several different videos. So this is the first part of that. Before I get started with that, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to a couple of channels. First of all, a shout out to Robert at Block's Sonic Wafers. He's got a very good channel going on right now. I really enjoy watching his channel. He's doing a series of videos about his secret stash, a lot of records that he has in a storage unit, and bringing them into his home and going through them almost like it's going through a thrift store, buying records that he's not really buying that are already his. But he's got some really good stuff, a lot of great stories. You need to subscribe to his channel, go help him out. He's got 56 subs right now. He should have more like 500, 1,000. Just very entertaining, very fun channel. Also, a shout out to Boz at That Vinyl channel. He is currently running a contest, which I believe ends really soon. But shortly after announcing his contest, he fell and broke his hip and had to have a hip replacement. So he's been in the hospital because he's had some complications from it. He says he's still planning on doing the drawing on April 11th, which is actually tomorrow. So unless things change, that's his plan. But he's got a great channel. Go check him out. Go support him, and tell him you're behind him in his next few days, next few weeks will probably continue to be rough for him, learning how to walk again and everything. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because I haven't heard that mentioned too much in the vinyl community yet. So anyway, a couple of channels there for you to check out. I almost didn't want to do this on a Sunday. I wanted to do this video yesterday actually, but had some other things come up, and I didn't want to do it on Sunday because I'm kind of competing with Stephen Carlson's great program that he has every Sunday with him and his companion Kat. They do about a half-hour program each week. Very interesting program and a great thing to watch. I always look forward to it every week. But I've been putting this off for quite a while, so I thought I'd go ahead and do it. So I'm going to show you a couple of artists, well actually several artists, that I have both albums and CDs from. And some progressive artists. They're considered progressive. And this first one is Adrian Belew. Now, a lot of people know Adrian Belew from King Crimson and also from Talking Heads. He's also done work with Frank Zappa, was with his band for a while, and has also done work with Nine Inch Nails. But he's also produced a lot of solo albums. This was his first, called Lone Rhino. I've already shown this one once, but this one is more along the lines of progressive pop. And progressive pop is, of course, a subgenre of progressive music. It's progressive, yet it's also easy to digest, easy to listen to. Not as dense as some that take a little bit longer to get used to. Now, you have to be kind of careful with Adrian Belew, because if you don't like the experimental music, you have to know which one of his albums are power pop and which ones are experimental. That one's an example of power pop with a little bit of experimental music mixed in. But Desire by the Tell is one that is more his experimental guitar style. Also a great album, but a little harder for the the masses to really get to know, since it's a little more complex. So, Desire Caught by the Tail. Adrian Belew's got some great albums out there, and if you haven't checked any of them out, go take a listen and see which ones you like. Another band that I'd like to show that started out to be progressive folk music and has since, well, on their later albums, kind of migrated to more of a soft rock sound. But that is the amazing Blondell. This is their album, Evensong. I believe it's their second album. But the amazing Blondell consists of three members: Eddie Baird, John Gladwin, and Terry Wincott. And they use a lot of different instruments, centering more around acoustic instruments like acoustic guitar, but they also like to use a lot of lute, a lot of recorders, flutes, those kind of things. And their music is definitely folk, kind of a Renaissance folk, but they're considered progressive folk because of the way they do some of their compositions in several different parts. They also use a lot of Renaissance styles like pavans, galliards, different things like that in their music. That their styles that were around for the Renaissance. They recorded their first albums on the Island label, like so. And I don't have their first album. I believe this, like I said, is their second album. Yes, Evensong, released in 1970. Their third album, Fantasia Lindum, which the first side takes up of an entire suite of songs. And again, they're using lutes and glockenspiels, dulcimers, recorders, harmoniums, a lot of different instruments like this. They also had their guitars especially made for their band, tuned down so that they can be played in the same songs as what their guitar, as what the lutes would be, so that they're tuned to the same, to be able to go together. I don't know how better to explain it, sorry. This is their fourth album, England, probably one of my favorite albums from them. And this particular album, side one is made up of a suite of songs called The Paintings, and these are longer tracks than what you normally hear from them. Seascape, Landscape, and Afterglow, while the second side is made up of shorter tracks, which include a sinfonia for guitar and strings, Cantus Firmus to counterpoint. Anyway, very interesting music, one that I highly recommend if you like folk music and you like progressive music. This is a mix of both. And I also have this one called Blondell. This one was made when one of the band members, I think it was Gladwin, that left the band for a short time. This one was made without him. And when he left the band started to move more towards soft rock. But on this particular album, there's still enough remnants of progressive folk in there to still make it worthwhile. Now, after that point, after that album, the music started to get a little cheesy, soft rock and that. They released one before this one, and that was the start of their soft rock era. Inspiration is another example of their soft rock music. Honestly, don't really like this album because it is too, I don't know, too soft rock, too corny sounding. It's like they're trying too hard. So I don't necessarily recommend this one, but I like I would like to be able to eventually get all of their records anyway. So I'm missing a few still, and those are the ones that I have up to this point. Another band, these are on CD. This is considered a progressive metal band, but this band doesn't only use a lot of guitars, but also a lot of synthesizer, a lot of electronics, and it's Irian. These guys, this project is amazing, and it's mostly headed over by Arjun A. Lucassen. I don't know if you can see his name there. I won't focus on it. Okay, and he's released several albums over the years, and this particular one and several of his others are based upon concepts, and they have different characters in them, and he utilizes different musicians that would be famous to a lot of people that like progressive metal. He uses them as different characters in his music. For example, you got James LaBrie from Dream Theater. And this particular album is called The Human Equation. So you got James LaBrie from Dream Theater, Devin Townsend, who is an amazing Canadian progressive metal artist. Love his music. He's my favorite progressive metal artist, by the way. You got Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth, Heather Findlay from Mostly Autumn, Mike Baker from Shadow Gallery. Let's see. Devin Graves from Dead Soul Tribe, Ken Hensley that used to be from Uriah Heep. That's just, and Oliver Wakeman's also involved in this particular album. Oliver Wakeman, of course, is Rick Wakeman's son. And his special editions are made up of the CD, which is a double CD. Okay. And also comes with the bonus DVD in the package, which has like making of videos and different things like that. So that one's called The Human Equation. Here's one called 010110001. And again, it's made up pretty much the same way as The Human Equation. It's a concept album. He has different artists doing different characters, and it's also 2 CDs, has the bonus DVD like the other one. Anyway, great stuff. I mean, another highly recommended if you like progressive metal. If you like heavy metal, then you may want to check out some progressive metal too. That's a good one to look into. Another band on that same line, this one is considered more of an extreme progressive metal. I don't know if I would go that far, as I don't find it being like extreme metal. There's no, the vocalists for most extreme metal bands have those harsh vocals, and the lead singer for this band, Baroness, approaches that level but doesn't quite reach that level. His vocals are more melodic, but they're a little bit rough, and I really actually love his vocals. A lot of people compare this band to Mastodon. So if you like Mastodon, you may want to check it out. But I think everybody should go check out this song, Raise on Pinion. This is off the Red album. The lead singer, I'm sorry, I can't think of his name right now, does all the artwork, and he's done all artwork for a lot of other progressive metal artists. So Baroness, really love their music. This is another album that came out after that called The Blue Record. Again, that's his artwork on there. The music has since become a little more radio friendly, but it's still got that progressive edge to it. Still something I would seek out, but these are 2 of the CDs that I have by them. Everybody knows about Steve Wilson, and he's got several different projects. I've mentioned this project before. It's Bass Communion. Bass Communion is Steven Wilson's very experimental side, where he takes a lot of different. Sometimes they're field recordings, other times they're recordings of instruments, and he manipulates them and turns them into musical paintings. I guess is the best way to describe them. A lot of Bass Communion's compositions are very well. They're extremely experimental, but they're also quite long. Many of them taking up full sides. And this one is a double album. This music is not for everybody, but if you like drone music, if you like experimental music, electronic, extremely experimental music, then you may want to check this out. But it is considered a progressive electronic band, project. So, Bass Communion, they've got lots of albums out. Another quick one, I want to put in a plug for beautiful Bedlam. One of my favorite albums for last year, 2021. The band sent me this to do a review on, which I did a review for on progarchives.com. Highly recommend this band. Just amazing music. A little bit on the heavy prog side, but not considered metal. Very enjoyable. Highly recommended. Just excuse me just a minute. I got to let my cat out. Okay, sorry about that. Next is a band called Brand X. Now, Brand X is progressive, but it's also considered a fusion band. A lot of their music is instrumental, but there are vocals in there. They've released several albums, mostly, like I said, instrumental music, but very enjoyable music through the years. And look closely at the back here. Phil Collins plays the drums, and he also does vocals on some of their records. But the music is not really your typical commercial music. It's very and it's not what you'd call experimental either. Like I said, it's more of a jazz fusion. And this is on Passport Records. I used to have a few more of their albums, but had to sell some of those. This is the only one I have left right now. But there's somebody that you should search out if you like jazz fusion and progressive music. There's a label called Constellation, which is a Canadian label. They're out of Quebec. I'm not sure. I think it's Montreal, Quebec. But the label is called Constellation Records, and they put out this sampler called Songs from a Silent Land. Songs of the Silent Land. And the music has a lot of their artists on. The artists that are on this particular label are both experimental, they could be post-rock, drone style, they could be avant-garde, progressive, and you got bands like Godspeed You Black Emperor, which I believe is their most popular artist. Also, some other great artists that on their label is Flypan Am, Do Make Say Think, The Silver Mountain Zion, Black Ox Oaken, I can never say this, Black Ox Orchestra, and Pomo Popo. Just a couple of the bands that are on there. This is a great sampler, a great way for you to get introduced to that type of music, to see if it's something you would enjoy. And I mentioned Flypan Am. They're one of the bands that's on this. This is one of their albums. The title is French, so I can't pronounce that. Um, their music, they started out, they were kind of along the lines of post rock, but they went more for an avant-garde style as they progressed along. And another great band, if you like Godspeed You Black Emperor, you'd probably like this band also, Flypan Am. I've mentioned these guys before. The Deer Hunter, another highly recommended band from me. I would consider them, they are progressive, just as much as what Muse is progressive, and they have that kind of sound, but I think they're much better, much more progressive than what Muse is. Where I kind of feel Muse's music sometimes gets a little redundant. The Deer Hunter is a lot more exploratory and has a lot more variety to the music. The head honcho for the Deer Hunter is Casey Crescenzo, and got an amazing voice. The music is just quite amazing. This one is on white vinyl with those fancy labels. But I highly recommend the Deer Hunter. I've shown this album before. They have a series of albums that are named after different acts. This one is Act 3, Life and Death, but it goes through, I think it goes through the life of a certain character. I have heard parts of their other albums and really enjoyed them too. This particular album now is very hard to get. I know it goes for a lot of money on Discogs, and I would imagine a lot of their other albums do too. In between I think it was 4 and 5, the Deer Hunter put out a box set, and the box set was called The Color Spectrum, and it contained, I think it was 10-inch records, and the people that was the only way you could get the music that was on those. They released a sampler disc, which is a full album of some of the best songs off of this collection. Here's the collection here, the Deer Hunter Color Spectrum. And that's right now the only other place you can get some of the music that's on this. But the records are all different colors. Like I said, they're all 10-inch records, and these are the colors that come in, plus you got white and black, but the colors are the color of the rainbow. See, Roy G. Biv is how you remember the colors of the rainbow. And the box set opens up like this, and comes with this nice booklet with some really cool artwork representing the different colors. It's just an example. And give you an example, we'll try the green one here. These little 10-inch records. Now the records each have 4 songs, 2 on each side. And this particular series isn't quite as progressive as what the other albums are, but it's still very enjoyable. There is some progressive music here. Each one of these records has the music on it kind of reflects the color of the record. So for the blue one, look for more blues-oriented rock. And the yellow one is more of a brighter, happier sounding disc. And so goes the black one, is more of the loud heavy metal style. Anyway, really cool collection. Again, one that's fairly hard to get a hold of now because they only made so many of them, but I jumped on it the minute I seen it come out. Another artist that is out there that a lot of people have probably missed is a guitarist named Fred Frith. Fred Frith used to be originally from Henry Cow, which is a band that a few people are aware of, especially people that love prog music. Kind of, again, avant-garde, progressive. And he also has made several solo albums. He's done a lot of soundtracks. This particular album here is called The Top of His Head. This is music from the original soundtrack for a film by Peter Mettler. Okay, and there's a lot of tracks on this. Not very many vocals, it's mostly instrumental, featuring his guitar stylings, which he has a very unique style, not for everybody. Here's another one called Eye to Ear, and this one contains a lot of different music from different soundtracks. Again, very experimental. He also had his Fred Frith Guitar Quartet, and this is their album called Upbeat. Highly recommend this. It's 4 guitarists, including Fred Frith. And he's also got Rene Lucier, Nick Didkovsky, Fred Frith, and Mark Stewart. And the songs on here, for the most part, are all 4 of them playing together, and but each one of them has a solo somewhere throughout the tracks. So, but very great stuff, especially if you like experimental guitar music. This one I would compare to some of the King Crimson instrumentals, kind of along the same line, but it still has that Henry Cow vibe to it. I'd like to show this album by a band called Phobia Hex. Of course, this is one I showed on my introductory video, I believe. Phobia Hex is a band made up of, well, they consider it electronic, but it's actually electronic folk progressive. And they've released several EPs, only a couple of albums. And the main person in this particular band is Clodagh Simmons. Now, she was with the band several years ago, back in 1969. This is a picture of her right there. I think it was called Mellow Candle or something like that. It was a folk band, and she come back and is the main person over Phobia Hex. Her singing is like otherworldly. It's just beautiful. And same thing with the music. Very calming, very nice, and quite easy to listen to. This particular album here are remixes of a couple of their tracks. It's all remixed by Stephen Wilson, who is also a big fan of Phobia Hex. If that's not enough to get you interested in their music, I don't know what is. But this is the only thing on vinyl that I have. Everything else I have is electronic. I don't have physical copies of. But it's something that I would highly suggest you check out. Phobia Hex. Beautiful. Uh, one more artist I want to show, and that is the guitarist Bill Frisell. Bill Frisell has done a lot of different music, has worked with a lot, and Fred Frith. This also applies to Fred Frith, but they've both worked with John Zorn. If you're familiar with John Zorn, he has about 1 million albums out there, different projects that he's been the head over, and things like that. Uh, Bill Frisell is one guitarist that has worked with him, and he has his own unique style that lies somewhere between jazz and folk music. Not folk, but even more, uh, even more towards Americana. Um, if it's really a different sound. Its guitar style is different, but it's not that it's experimental. It's actually quite easy to listen to. Um, this particular album is together with Dave Holland and Jones. Elvin Jones. And this is more of a fusion album, but it still has the same stylings, the same undertones of Americana along with it. Good stuff. This one is called The Best of Bill Frisell, Volume 1, Folk Songs. Uh, you might think that this would be an album that sounds a lot of alike all the way through it, but it's not. There's so many different styles of music on this, even though Americana is the main feeling you get here. There's also some jazz fusion in there. He does some traditional songs like Shenandoah, which is just absolutely lovely. Um, and he does the blues song Sitting on Top of the World. Um, Wildwood Flower is another one that he does a cover of. I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, and then there's a lot of uh, original stuff on here too. But if you're looking for a great guitarist who kind of lands along the lines of progressive, he is considered progressive in that his style is a lot different than what you would normally expect. Um, then check out Bill Frisell, again, a person that has a lot of different albums out. And you can always be safe to pick out something that's either going to be a jazz fusion style or it will be more of a jazz Americana style. So somewhere in that range. Just really great stuff. So that's all I'm going to show you this time around. I will come back and do some other videos like this in the future. I'm hoping to get some kind of a lot of comments on this. Let me know if you like what you see here and you would like to check some of these people out. That's the main reason I'm doing this, is to get the word out from these different artists that don't seem to get as much attention. So anyway, that's part one of my progressive artists that you may not have heard of. And thank you again for watching, and we will talk to you later.